Let's start playing wise. I grew up in Southern California. Played at Valley Christian High School in Cerritos, California, and then from there I went to Cerritos College. Is another community college out there in California, and played there. I redshirted and played 2 years, um, and then I went to Lincoln University in Missouri uh, in I don't know 2004 and five. That's kind of when I was there, and had some success in high school and junior college. Didn't have a lot of success at Lincoln. We weren't very good. And when I got done playing, I went back to California. um, hadn't graduated yet, but right off the bat, I just kind of wanted to go back home. And right off the bat, I started coaching at Valley Christian High School. And I was I helped out with the JV team the first year, and then I was up in the booth for the varsity team. And then the next year, I was the offensive line coach for varsity, and I did the special teams. And then I was the offensive coordinator the last 2 years I was there, um, and had a lot of fun with that. I was up in the booth, got to call the plays, and it was a good time. And then my alma mater, Cerritos, as well. So I went to two alma maters right off the bat. Went to Cerritos College and coached there in 2010 and 11. And we won back-to-back conference championships and won bowl games both years, and lost to Mount Sac in the Southern California championship game both years. So we were talented, we were good. So I knew the junior college in California as a player, and knew it as a coach, um, and then ended up getting a job at Whittier College out there in California, Division III school. I was there for a year, or about a year. I got there in February. Restricted earnings. I was the O-line guy, but I was like $12,000. I was living at home with mom and dad, and
Mm-hmm.
went and did that for a year, and we actually won more games in Whittier than they had in like 15 years. Went 4-5, and they thought we were the best thing since sliced bread. And then the Dodge City offensive line job opened up, and Gary Thomas, who was the head coach there, played at Cerritos College as well for the same people. The head coach at Cerritos College was there for like 40 years, Frank Mazzota, and he's a mentor to a lot of us, and a lot of us that have played for him have gone on to coach, and I got a chance to do both. I got to coach with him and play for him. Gary Thomas played about 4 or 5 years before me, was a quarterback. The offensive coordinator there, who's now the head coach, Dean Grossfeld, was my OC. The DC was my O-line coach. They were there when Gary Thomas was there, so we all knew each other. And actually, the DC at Cerritos at the time was Pat Callahan, who became our DC at Dodge as well. So we kind of knew the same people. And when the job opened up, he, I had some friends, kind of reach out to him, and how it goes in this business,
Right.
and so he ended up hiring me. And I was there for 6 years. We had some good success there in Dodge. It was terrible when we got there. It was 0-9 the year before. They won like 5 games in 5 years, and we went, I think, 7-4 the first year. Went to a bowl game. Went 4-7, and then in 2014, and then in 15 we went 9-2, won a conference championship, and played in a bowl game again. And then finished second in 16, and so it just kind of went from there. And Gary Thomas ended up taking a job outside of football, and after the 2018 season, running his father-in-law's company out there in Dodge. And so they did a national search. They hired a guy, and you know how the college business worked. They didn't retain any of us. So
Mm-hmm.
I got the dreaded phone call, or the call down to the AD's office, and it was here's your termination letter, or here's your resignation letter. Which one are you going to sign? But either way, you're not employed here by 5 o'clock.
Right.
The day before Christmas break, obviously. So
Always.
I went on unemployment, and I've known Kiyoshi Harris, which is my head coach, for a long time, out in California. We've probably known each other 15 years. Good friend of mine. We're both O-line guys. And when he ended up getting the interim job, and he was looking to get the head job at Independence, he reached out to me, and I went and interviewed. So he hired me as the O-line coach, and I got out to Independence last March. I love the change. We won the conference this year, and I think we got things going in a good direction here in Independence. And that's all you can ask for in this business. I'm not a big let's bounce around everywhere, um, you know, type of guy. But I know a lot of people get goals and they want to move up. But I kind of like where I'm at, and I like how he manages us and tries to keep us, hungry to be good, and sometimes you get complacent. And I've even told him I think I got complacent at Dodge at times where it's like, well, we're pretty good, and it's like, no, I want to be great, and just having that drive to do that all the time, and I think he really brings that out of us as coaches and players as well.
Well, Coach, I got a lot of questions for you with
Okay.
junior college offensive line and recruiting and a bunch of different things. But specifically for Independence, you're with a head coach that was an offensive line coach. I similarly here at Broken Arrow, our head coach was a 12-year NFL veteran and an offensive line coach, all through high school. Was there, and he said it was going to be really hard for me. I got here and there was some tough times, but I wouldn't ask for anything more because I've learned so much because I was a young coach coming into it. My first year coaching was, under him, with him being the head coach. And so it's been awesome for me. Was there any reservations with you? And obviously each other and, but having the head coach be the offensive line, previous was the offensive line coach, knows so much about offensive line. What was that like? What's it like now working with your head coach that knows so much about offensive line and is a great offensive line coach?
Yeah, well, I always thought, you always think if you're the head coach, right, and you're an O-line guy, it's going to be tough for you to just relinquish that. Like O-line coaches, we're different than everyone else. I think receiver coaches and coordinators and quarterback guys, they can relinquish that stuff a little bit more. I think O-line coaches, like, we all have our way of how this is the way to do it, and no way is the right way. Probably it's all about how you teach it and the results you produce out of it. But he was always a guy, because I've known him a long time, is if I ever got a head job, I would want him. I could hand that over to him, and it may not be the way I do it, but I know he'd do a hell of a job with it. And that was something in my mind that, the fact that he called me when he got that opportunity, obviously felt pretty blessed. And that he wants things done a certain way, and I'm okay with it. I've never said that this is the way to do it. I did things at Dodge differently we do here. But I do like how we do things, and so there were some things that he was like, we got to do it this way, and we talked through a lot of those things, and even last year, he was still very heavily involved with the offensive line as the fire truck's going by. Sorry.
No worries.
He was very heavily involved, and actually at practice a lot of times was in our individuals and over there with me helping me coach. Just because we have good numbers, and we had a lot of talent, and you know how it is. You get in the college level, center and guard is way different than tackle.
Right.
Tackle and tight end, and so you got to be able to split those specific things up. But I loved it because when we started practice, and it was a little different than I ran my practices, but we'd start our pre-practice and we'd go. I mean, we'd go for 20 minutes. We dang near kill the kids. Between sled, the chutes, all that stuff, boards. Like we would get them so worked up and get them up and ready, because we practice in the morning, and then we'd go to stretch, and then we'd go to our specialized drills. And I loved it because now we have 2 O-line coaches, and we're doing a lot. You know what I mean? In those things, there's a lot of teaching going on. But I think that's what helped our kids get as good as we did it at what we did, because we did it every day. That was kind of our routine. We got after them. So, the first 15 minutes was, bags, chutes, sled, and we were rolling. Like, we got them up and awake, and got them going, because we're on the field at 7:45. And I enjoy it. And the fact is, if I'm not doing my job where I'm at now, if I'm not handling my load, one, he's going to tell me, which I love. A lot of people are like, man, I don't like the I like the criticism. tell me I'm not doing a good job, because it's just gonna make me want to be better. And I love that aspect of it. And but the other thing is, we can sit there and talk about things that you probably don't have those conversations with every head coach.
Right.
And the other thing I love is, we don't have a ton of money to spend on kids in terms of, extra scholarship. We're kind of a books and tuition, and we have some extra money. Having an O-line head coach is nice, because the extra money generally goes to us in the D-line. I mean, which, if we do get some, we have some extra to give some people, that's where they go, because he knows that it's an important part of it.
Well, that was something that was kind of new to me, as we've had a few kids go junior college in the last few years, which we hadn't had in the past. Well, we'd had plenty of kids go junior college, but it wasn't the kids that were Division I type kids that just didn't quite get the grades, good enough. And now the past few years, we've had 2 or 3 of those kids. And so it was interesting to me to learn that some of the prominent junior colleges are kind of known for a certain position. And going through this, you guys are kind of known for offensive line. And I'm sure there's other things as well, but just through that process and hearing our head coach and coordinator talk to junior college guys that come through, you guys were kind of known for, hey, that's where the big time offensive linemen go. And every year they've got, 3, 4, 5, or, 8 Division I offensive linemen, on their roster every single year. So I'm sure that is a nice thing to have as well as a coach. And I'm sure that's something that you're trying to continue that legacy going forward.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, we've been blessed. Obviously, we get the show helps. Obviously, when I was at Dodge, I felt like when I get on the phone with a kid for the first time, I'd spend 15 minutes just explaining who I was, where we were. They had no idea who we were. The kids that run across the country don't pay attention to the Jayhawk Conference. But the show obviously brought Independence Community College a lot of notoriety. And so I can send them a text and say, I'm Coach Landgren from Independence, and do you know who we are? And they say yes. And then I can be like, okay, well, it cuts down your spiel a little bit.
Right.
But the biggest thing that I think we try to do more than anything, and we don't get it. Honestly, we don't get a ton of big time training. We've had a few. We've done better with some FCS guys that want to improve themselves than more than anything than like the big time, the Alabama bounce back that gets in trouble or anything like that. That's more, I think, more skilled positions. But what we try to do in the recruiting process is we get a chance to take some chances on some long athletic kids that maybe aren't there, and try to get them in the program and redshirt them and develop them and get them out the following year and make them a 3 for 3, which makes them very, very, one, marketable, and 2, you put 6'6" on there. I mean, I've got 3 kids right now that were on our team last year, but they didn't play a snap for us, that have Division I offers. And like, one has Power 5, but they have like 3 or 4 FBS offers apiece. They haven't played a snap for us in a game. But one's 6'6.5", and the other 2 are 6'7". And they see the potential, and we talk to those coaches about that, and they know that, and they've seen some practice film and things like that. So they're not stabbing at the dark at that stuff, but
right,
it's kind of trying to find that balance, of what can we develop, and then if you find a hole. I mean, just like any 4-year school, you find a hole, you got to go get. If you're a 4-year program, you either go junior college, you get a transfer. We got to do the same thing. If we find a hole and we're not good enough, we need to go find a transfer then. But again, like I said, we've had more success, I think, in the last, even when Coach Harris was the O-line coach, they've had more success with the FCS guy trying to improve and go FBS. The guy who played as a freshman or a sophomore at an FCS school trying to move back up. That's where we've had a lot more success.
Well, and then, Coach, you guys have got to see and be able to see where they can be as well. So it's so cool you made that point. I've always argued, I went to the University of Houston, and so we play Houston and Tulane and Tulsa, and I lived in Tulsa, and I've always made the argument that I realize that you guys want to go get the 6'6", 340-pound kid going to Alabama, but Alabama wants that kid, and he's going to go to Alabama. And so I get it at Houston and Tulsa and all those schools that you'd like to have those guys, and you probably have to have, 2 in your recruiting class at least that already have some of the size. And there's some coaches that like the really big, heavy guys, and they think that they can, make that guy lose weight. I've always been under the impression to take the kid that's really super athletic, but not a real athletic tight end that's 6'5", that can't really catch well, but we can add weight on him in 1 year. He's had to fight his whole life to be able to be on the offensive line, so he's probably learned a lot of technique. He's learned how to battle in there. He hadn't just always been bigger than everybody, and now when he's starting at 240 and now he's at your university for a year and a half and he's 285 pounds, now he's a freak that you would have loved to have had coming out of high school. You just had to take a year with him.
No, that's that. And in our recruiting process, you have to look at, what do we need right now? And typically, generally the 6'3" guy, if because we play with freshmen and sophomores, but if you're a junior college that's to play with freshmen, when I was at Dodge, we had to. And so I leaned more towards a 6'3", 6'4" kid that was a little bit thicker, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more accomplished that could play for me right away. And I would pass on some of the 6'7" kids that maybe look a little bit goofy, don't have all the tools, a little bit light, because I couldn't redshirt them and I didn't have the same setup I have now. And I like the fact that, like I said, I'm able to bring those guys in and we're taking some kids that if you watch your high school film, you'd be like, man, you guys took that kid. Well, yeah, we did. We see some potential in him. And not saying that you can't have the really good offensive lineman at 6'3". I mean, you can't. I mean, there's height isn't the natural requirement, but for us, recruiting is so important to us because we got to do it on both ends. So in order for us to get the next crop of really good players in, we've got to send as many as we can Division I on the other end. So a lot of times for us, we're looking marketability. So
there's no doubt about that. I think, Coach, obviously, like you said, I mean, that's two things that kids are going to look at when they're going, JUCO. One, are we going to win some games and I'm going to have, a chance to get developed? And then two, are you guys going to get me placed at the ultimate goal, which is going to be that 4-year institution?
And that's the key for us. And I'm kind of handling our 4-year marketing stuff now. Obviously, Coach Harris and the whole coaching staff's involved in that. But I kind of make our marketing list, and we probably have the best act. I know everyone's seen the show and they talk about Miss Brittany at East Mississippi. We have one there that's incredible. We graduated 51 kids this year, and we graduated like 45 at mid-year, which makes them eligible to go to spring ball. And it's unheard of, I think, at this level. There's not a whole lot of junior colleges doing that. And that's part of it is the academic side, because a lot of the kids we get are non-qualifiers. We get some that are qualifiers, and we had a linebacker last year was a qualifier, was with us in the summer, and in December he signed with TCU, and he's already there. He's a 4-for-3, 6'3", long athletic kid that only had D2 offers. He was under-recruited. So you got the under-recruited kids, but that's a little bit less, and most of our kids are non-qualifiers. So they have to graduate, and they have to have a 2.5 GPA or higher for Division I. So the fact that she's able to get that stuff done is incredible, and she makes our job easier. And she meets with the kids. She manages them so well, and that's a big component to it for us. And then obviously the other part is marketing them out to everyone, and we're kind of knowing, like we always say, we call them dudes. We got dudes, bro. Like that's our kind of mantra there, and everyone knows. I mean, they see our marketing list and they go, "You've got some guys that we need to look at." And it's not just at offensive line; it's across the board. And our marketing list is probably bigger than everyone else's. But we try to be very accurate in how we depict everyone and what they do. And then we're just honest with those coaches. And maybe our stamp's a little bit more gold than some other places, but we've had a lot of kids go have success. I mean, we had 36 kids, and we'll probably end up with 38 when it's all said and done that signed Division I scholarships off last year's team.
Jeez.
And no one else is doing that. And that's FCS and up. I think I know 20, maybe 20 or 22 were FBS. But, I think I realistically had 8 offensive linemen that played played for me last year. And I think 6 signed Division I and 7 should have. But the one kid was a D2 class. He was a transfer kid. He went to San Diego State, left, sat out a year. D2 clock kid. He's at UTPB. But he was a 6'7", 320-pound Samoan kid from the island. And, he would have – everyone in the country wanted him, but he couldn't go Division I because of his clock. So, we probably would have been, 7 or 8, had he not have that issue. But, that's kind of the goal every year is, we got to look at marketability. We got to look at those guys and see what they project as. And we also look at, when we're having our meetings about kids, okay, so he's not a guy this year. That's fine if he's not. Is he a guy? Is he going to be here in January and be a guy the next year? And that's what you have to ask yourself. Do we see a future for him? And if we do, then yeah, we're going to bring him in.
That was going to be –
yeah, go ahead, Walls.
I was just going to say that was going to be like my next question, Coach, was kind of, you're talking about having, 8 big-time linemen, and I'm guessing you guys are going to rotate and play them so those guys got tape and those guys can go do – obviously you want to win, but you're still trying to get as many guys on the field. I look at a bunch of the junior college stats, and you guys would be no different. I mean, you're playing 3 or 4 tailbacks, and guys are getting carries. So, I mean, you're kind of letting everybody eat a little bit. Obviously, yes, we're going to win. We're going to win our league. We're going to win games. But at the same time, there's kind of that line of, man, we want everybody to be able to eat and everybody to get a little bit of shine. 1, because you're a good player, and 2, it makes us look better on the back end because everybody's going to a big-time school.
Yes, and like last year, we had a 3-headed monster at running back, and probably all 3. One was a co-conference player of the year on offense in the conference. He had 780 yards and won co-conference player of the year because no one wanted to play him, and he went Division I, obviously. But the kid at Dodge City, little wide receiver, had 1,500, or like 2,000 all-purpose yards and was crazy. But no one wanted to tackle our running back, but he also split time, and they all knew that with 2 other running backs. So we had 2 guys at 700 yards and 1 kid at 600 yards rushing. Were our top 3 backs. And you generally don't get that. And it's probably a dynamic we probably never get again. Those kids honestly wanted all those guys to be successful. And that's part of the management process that you got to get. But, we had 6 linebackers and 5 of them went Division I. We played 6 linebackers on a pretty regular basis, and 5 of them went Division I. And that's, that's something that, we're going to play a lot of kids. We're going to get a lot of kids some stats. We maybe not get them all the top-end stats. They don't win all the postseason awards, but they get rewarded, like you said. And that's what they want. The kids want the reward at the end. And I always tell them it's a mutually beneficial agreement when I'm recruiting them. We're going to go in a mutually beneficial agreement here. I'm going to use you to win games, and you're going to use me to get you a scholarship. I said, if you just do what we ask you to do on a regular basis, and believe in the program and believe in what we do, that on the back end, we're both going to get rewarded because the winning will take care of itself if you do the right things. The way we practice, the way we run our program, we're going to be successful. And on the back end, you're going to get rewarded with a Division I scholarship. And that's what they want. And you have to be real with them because we're not in a world where every kid's just going to just do whatever you say anymore. You have to be real with them. You have to be honest with them. And you have to be upfront with them. And most of them, if you are, and say you're going to come in here and compete, and you're going to have to do what I ask you to do, they're going to do it. They want that challenge. And that's hard, for a lot of people. They don't understand that, but our kids, they embrace it.
Coach, how do you specifically roll guys in with the offensive line? I think that can be a really difficult thing. Obviously, you understand the importance of it, so you're going to do it. But there's some special positions. Center might be a special position. With how much do we want to rotate guys there? There's probably guys that want to play center and guard because they think it does certain things for them, and I'm sure everyone wants to play tackle because it's the big spot. How do you just with the offensive line, how do you go about deciding how you're going to rotate in guys at what positions, at what points of the game?
So it depends. I think I kind of tier them a little bit. I was kind of laughing a little bit because of the center thing. I rotated everywhere else, but my center took every snap last year.
I bet say that make me too nervous.
He just took everything. But and that's the thing is you got some key positions and we shuffled around a little bit. We had some injuries. That's another part is, you try to get some guys in, and there may be some games they don't play very much. But in the course of the game, and our conference is so tough, guys are going to get banged up. That's what's going to happen. So I think I had my center and my right tackle that went to Kentucky. I think they played every snap last year, and the rest just it kind of folds in. Now in the fold of a game, you got to read the game, obviously, and obviously if you're down, you're probably not reluctant to put that guy in. But if say I was 10 deep, I truly was 10 deep, and I felt good about all 10 of them, I would spot do it. So this series I put a new right tackle in with a veteran guard, and put a new guard in with a veteran tackle, and then my center. You know what I mean? I always try to have someone in between,
right?
That was kind of new, that had someone that was a little bit more veteran to help them through. But obviously I'd love to get to where I was 10 deep, and it's like, man, just go.
Sure.
I haven't had a year yet. I thought I've come close a couple times, but as the season goes on, they just some guys kind of fade out, and some guys you sink or swim sometimes. And not to say we can those guys, but at the same time at some point we got to have some tough conversations and say, hey, you're not getting it done, and you need to step your game up, or you just wasted a year. If I played you early in the season, I thought you had a chance to get better and play as the year went on. If you start faltering and I'm giving you less and less reps in practice, that means you're getting 0 to no reps in the game. You're getting very, very little from me. So, and I think the competition part of what we create at Independence helps us with that. When you don't have enough, or you don't have the right mix, like I said, with Coach Harris and how he kind of treats us as coaches, to kind of keep us on our toes and not get complacent. The players have to understand that. Like, they can't get complacent. And if you don't have enough competition for them, they will.
So, Coach, I'm curious, how does that communication go with you and the other coaches, or with all the coaches? I mean, talking, from here in high school, just knowing we had a couple different tailbacks. Our OC was up in the box, and obviously it was important for him to know, hey, so-and-so is going in at tailback. Or, if I had a guy go down, hey, the right guard, this drive, he's not as, whatever. So-and-so is in at right guard. And is that something you guys have already talked with the head coach and as a whole staff the week before? Hey, make sure we get these people and look at it overall. Is it, hey, just you as a position coach are looking at your position and trying to get people in? What is the communication like that? Because that's really interesting to me.
A little bit of both. Last year Coach Harris took over calling the offense, and so that was a good thing. He kind of knew what we had at running back, and he would. Coach Ornelas was our running back coach. He's at UCO now, and did a great job of managing him. And he was kind of, we'll play the hot hand. And I think it's a little bit different at each position. And there's probably some positions where they're a little bit more free to rotate. Offensive line, you're going to do it on the sideline. I ended up going in the booth, so a lot of my communication went through Coach Harris on that, when we're going to make some changes. For me, it's always been feel. And like you were saying with, hey, so-and-so's at right guard, when I was at Gary Thomas, it was the same thing at Dodge. Like, hey, coach, I got so-and-so at left guard this series,
Right.
like we had talked about what they do well and what they don't do well, and let's cater to them. Don't put them in a bad situation. Obviously 3rd and long, you may get caught, right? But in the run game, this kid pulls really well. All right, well, let's get him a pull and power, and let him go do what he does well. He doesn't run outside zone very well. Okay, well, let's put him on the backside, or don't put him on the front side of it if we can. And those are things you kind of talk about as you go through the week and game plan. And I think if you do your game plan right and have the right conversations, and you do your job right, the game, you're not making a ton of adjustments anymore. If you really do your homework, and there's going to be those times where you got to be like, all right, we got to do something different. That's going to happen. They came out in something totally different. We got to do it. But I feel like if I prepared them enough, I don't think I spend very much time on the whiteboard drawing up anything new in a game with them. Most of the time, it's just redrawing up what we talked about all week. Remember, we talked about this all week. When they do this, or and I think that's more than anything, it's just reiterating to them. But I think if you prepare your guys well enough, it doesn't affect them, in the game too much.
Well, that's one of the most interesting things with me with junior college coaches is with offensive line specifically. You guys have got to, and it's similar to high school, but in junior college, you might have a kid only for one semester. So you guys have got to make it as, in a great way, as simple as possible, and not, I think a lot of people think of that as a negative. As an offensive line coach myself, I think of that as a huge positive. Making it simple so my guys can play, and having enough schemes that we're not handcuffed in a game, but not having so many that we only use one once a game, and now we've wasted however many minutes or hours throughout the practice week on something we ran one time, and balancing the importance of that, and then being able to teach and get taught, because you've got technique over all of that as well. Yeah. And it's a guy that's only going to be there, in high school, we at least get him for 3 years. At a 4-year program, you got him 4 to 5 years. You guys might only have a kid a semester, but he's got to be able to play and know what he's doing. How do you go about balancing that? How important is that for you as an offensive line coach? Because I think it's a little easier at some positions. Now, I'm not a receiver guy, but I would assume it's a little bit simpler with receivers, where with an offensive line, as much as they have to know, it's got to be simple. And then, then you got to see 4 different defenses, and they're slanting, and they're, all of that adds on to it.
So I'll kind of answer to it. When I was at Dodge, I thought we were good at what we did, and Gary Thomas was a heck of an OC. I thought we had too many schemes at times, where I felt like some years when we had a younger group, that we didn't get good at, inside zone and power, which were kind of our 2 main ones. We didn't get good at those. So maybe week 3 or 4, because we had other schemes that we were working on too. But when I got to Independence, and what we've done is we've really lived off of inside and outside zone. So we do less scheme wise for the offensive line. What we spend more time on with them is identifications, right? So we have 6 identifications of how we identify the front. We actually identify our fronts guard to guard. So, we have even hawk, stack eagle, diamond, odd, and bear, and we kind of, but we identify that way. And then we actually have our tight ends make a call when they're attached as to what that look is. And we actually teach it as, okay, tackle tight end. If we're running inside zone or outside zone, if we've got a tough look, this is what we do. We got an easy look, these are the 2 or 3 things you can do. And if you've got a safe look, this is what you do. And we try to kind of pot it up a little bit, to make it a little bit easier for those guys. And it's a good system. It's Coach Harris's system that we're using, but it's gold. And we use it in our pass protection big time, to where we don't have to rely on the quarterback too much, to where we can make a lot of side adjustments and things. I really like how we have the system set up. But what happens within that, we're going to run power, we're going to run inside zone, we're going to run outside zone. I'm not giving away any secrets to the rest of the competition. They can put on the film. That's what we ran. I think I did an outside zone clinic at SWASU, and I mean we ran outside zone like we called it like 200 and something times last year. We rushed for like 200. I think it was like 247 or 250 right in there per game. And everyone knew what we were doing, and then we
Right.
block our outside zone like stretch. I mean, we're old school rip reach. I mean, we're ripping through there, we're pulling and overtaking. I mean, it looks a lot probably like stretch back, when everyone was under center and tight end, double tight end, and running stretch. I mean, that's realistically what it probably looks like to them. But it's tough on them, but what that does for us in our practice plan as we're working on our technique is we do those steps every day because we're not doing a lot of schemes. So that's where we kind of combat the technique side of it is, our stretch base step is we use that on inside zone, we use that on outside zone, and just kind of how we teach it. So we go use that all the time. We use a pick up put down for our inside zone. So we teach, and our kids get to work on that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because we do all that in pre-practice. And then they can get good at it because offensive line is the most repetitive position in football. Like you have to do it 1,000 times to get good at it. Like you just have to. And that's what we do, in pass protection. I mean, we go through it. We do our blitz pickup periods, but it's all about making the right calls. And then, just how we set. I don't get too in depth with all the little counter moves that you see on YouTube and everything else that some of the high-end guys are doing. I feel like if I can teach a tackle to kick correctly at the right angle and take away the inside and be able to run that guy up past the quarterback, I can teach him how to punch. I can maybe teach him how to knock a hand down or something if he gets a long arm. I don't sit there and teach a ton on the snatch. I don't do a ton of that because our kids come along at different levels. I got so many that some are here and some are way down here, and you got to bring them together at the same time. A lot like the high schools at times. You can't get too advanced. But I feel like if I can teach them the base techniques and the base steps of how to get where you need to get, they can go be successful. And then it's up to Charlie Dickey at Oklahoma State and those places to go make those guys learn all those other things. And we try to keep it simple, like you said.
Coach, would you say, your guys' emphasis on the run game has probably been kind of, one of the pillars for, being able to do some of the quick turnarounds, building things on the ground, building that mentality of, you guys are going to work, we're going to be repetitive and do that. Again, I think it comes back to the old adage, teams that can run the ball generally going to be the ones playing late in the season.
I think that's more paramount than ever before. There was that craze, obviously, you had the Tony Franklin system, the air raid, all that stuff, and a lot of people were going through it. And I ran it when I was in high school, the Tony Franklin system. It's a really good system for high school coaches, that don't know how to maybe teach the reads and all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is, I think that if you can run the ball and stop the run, if you can do those two things, you have a chance to be very successful. You still have to throw the ball, you still have to defend the pass, all that other stuff comes in. But if you can run the football and stop the run, and if you can be sound on special teams, you don't have to be elite on special teams, but mainly on your kick end, if you can pin them deep and change field position, I think at the high school game, college game, it doesn't matter. If you can do those things on a consistent basis, you can beat a lot of football teams. Are you going to beat them 70-20? No. But you can win those one possession games in the fourth quarter, which, for us, that it comes down to that. We got parity in our league. We won it last year, but even Fort Scott, who was a middle of the road team in our conference last year, they were beating some teams, or they're in those games in the fourth quarter. That just happens at our level. So if they're in the game in the fourth quarter, how do you win that game? In that tight game, how do your kids handle that? And I think it's just kind of being consistent in all those aspects, and not being always so aggressive. You're aggressive when you need to be, but you got to learn how to, 2 first downs and a punt goes a long way.
Coach, I'm curious with your outside zone, are you guys in pistol or are you guys offset?
We
Or do
do
you do
both.
both? So,
Yeah,
okay,
we do.
so that's my big question. So, with both, do you teach that any differently for your guys? That's where I've run into where I'm almost against doing it out of offset because, now my guard rips through, reaches that three really well, but now the three plays really vertical. And if we're an offset, it may cut off our tailback, where if we're in pistol, we're outside of it and there's no problem.
So we actually teach our tailbacks. They're going to read that. They're going to read that first defensive tackle. So they're going to read that three technique, and that's where they're actually going to put their foot in the ground, get vertical. We're trying to cut on the backside and get that stuff on the ground. So if we do get cut off by the three technique, we want to have a guy that's going to put his foot in the ground and get vertical. And sometimes that's the home run version, right? Or sometimes that's we get back to the line of scrimmage. You live to play another down. And keeps you in a manageable down and distance. But we move our tailback up. I think he's toe to the heels. He's not. We don't put him too wide. He might widen a little bit, but not too much. And we get him coming fast, and we get that rip. But we also cut our splits, a little bit on that, so that center can get there on that three technique. And we haven't had, our big thing is on that rip. And I think where some people like, that's why I say I think we're a little bit old school. We really work on our third step. It's about that third step getting vertical. We want them vertical through there. So we're actually trying to get vertical push on an outside game. We're not just trying to turn and run. You're pulling overtake guy. Yeah, he's going to do that a little bit more. But your front side guy that's ripping through there, we're trying to go vertical through there. And that's, especially when you get to the tackle tight inside, if we can get vertical push on that defensive end, it shortens the edge for us, and we can sweep that field a lot faster.
Love it. Well, Coach, I'm kind of – so the other thing that I was wondering about is, and you've talked recruiting a little bit, but when you guys go and you recruit that Division II offer kid, you go into a high school and he's a kid that is 6'5" or 6'6", and he's 240 pounds, and every Division II in the area has offered him, but he can't quite get that Division I offer, and so he's got the option to kind of bet on himself and go the junior college route, or go where he's probably got a little bit more of a scholarship at the Division II level, but he's going to have to stay at that Division II level. What do those talks sound like with those guys? What are the things that you're trying? I'm sure you're asking them questions to find out what they want, but what's your kind of, as a junior college, what's your sell to those guys, or what do those talks sound like?
I've done that a lot of times with kids, and my big thing is I always try to find out what okay, they've offered you. What does that package look like? What's that financial aid? What does that financial package look like? Because a lot of Division IIs aren't given full scholarships. They get 36 fully funded. They got to split those up, and with that, they have to make things work. So they give the least amount of money, I think, at the Division II level to the freshmen because of their highest dropout, quit rate. Generally a sophomore, junior, senior is gonna stay there a little bit longer. They're gonna have a little bit more money. So if they're not a top end Division II money guy, what I tell them is, okay, you're thinking it's a gamble on yourself. You're betting on yourself to go bigger. Our kids that go Division II out of our place, they're going to school for closer to free because you're proven in college. So they're going to find a way with Pell Grant, maybe some type of grade, a grant with the grades, and then some scholarship money, and you're going to go to school for closer to free than you were going right out of high school. So I always tell them that offer is going to be there. If you come play for us and you say you don't make a Division I, you're going to have a chance to go. You're going to have that same opportunity for you, and it's probably going to be more money. And that's kind of how I handle that. But I generally ask them, and I've had some kids that say, Coach, they're paying me the boat, like, with my Pell, and I'm getting some academic money, and I'm good. And I'll tell them, all right, if you're good with that, like, that's a good offer, then I would take that. But it's just kind of, you got to feel the kid out. you get the feeling from every kid when they're on the phone. You can get excitement level. You understand what they're thinking. And I've had kids in on visits and been close to flipping them from a D2 school, and they still go there. And you're going to lose some, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. That's kind of recruiting. But that's the beauty of recruiting is there's always another kid. And so it's always, for me, recruiting's an effort thing, right? So I'm going to put in the effort. If you don't feel like that we're the right way and you're not putting the effort into me, that's okay. There's another one out there somewhere. I got to put in more effort to get them.
Well, and then jumping back a little bit, I know we already talked about it, but we got off on a different part of it. What I think is really cool, just again, sitting in some of those meetings with these junior colleges coming in and talking to our big players that needed to go junior college route, is how important, grades are for you guys, because I've been through the recruiting process. I've heard, the Division I schools come in and they do their spiel, which, hopefully most of them really do care about it. But I get the feeling that a lot of times, obviously, that it's not a big concern for them. They'll tell them, yeah, we got this and this, and we graduate kids, and it's, they say it because they're supposed to, and it's a good foregone, it's a good thing to say. But also, I've been through school and thought I was going to be in education. And then 3 years later, I actually went over to an actual advisor, and they said, "No, you've been in sports administration, and after you get done with college, you're gonna have to take your teaching certificate." And so I've seen that at the Division I level, where when you guys came in, not you personally, but when the junior colleges came in, they talked about playing, but almost exclusively with our kids, they talked about, this is the plan we have to get you to graduate college. We want you to graduate. This is how long it's going to take you to graduate here. These are the things that we have set up for you. It truly showed how much more you guys as a junior college level put into, I think, just from those recruiting, pitches that I was in, how much more you guys put into graduating these kids.
Yeah, and like we were talking about it. So Sonia Conley is our academic advisor, and she's awesome. I mean, she's the best in the country, I think, in terms of, one, she cares about the kids. She wants them to be successful. She's going to do everything she can to help them. The thing that we do is we try to keep our kids busy. From we start meetings at 6:30. I do a walkthrough and we practice, and then our kids go to class from 11 to 4. That's their block. They go to class. And then we bring them back and we do meetings and weightlifting and everything. And then we bring them back for study hall. We do study hall 4 days a week, and we do it by position. So I have the offensive line in my meeting room, and I'm their study hall, making sure they're doing stuff. And the biggest thing is, like we said, staying on top of them about getting everything done. But the one thing that I think we get done at Independence better than most is we get our kids in, our true freshmen, or when they first come in, we bring them in July. We get them, 9 credits generally at first summer. We take about 15 in the fall, take 15 to 18 in the spring, take another 9 that next summer, and then 12 to 15 that following fall. Because for our guys to make it out, if they're non-qualifiers, they need to graduate, which is 62 credits. And that's with no remedial stuff. So if they come in under in math or English or something like that and have to take a lower level, they need more than 62 credits. And they need to have a 2.5. Obviously, they have to have their 2 college Englishes, their college science, their college math, their speech, their communication, and then obviously the different electives, histories, those types of things that fall in there for their AA degree, because that's what they need to get out. And even our division, our 4-year guys that transfer in, they fall under a 4-2-4 transfer rule, which they're transferring from a 4-year to a 2-year to a 4-year. Even though they were a qualifier at the beginning, they have to if they come to us, they have to graduate to get out. And that's where we have to, go look at their credits and make sure that their stuff is online with what we're doing. And sometimes it's a little bit tough, but for the most part, we're able to get it done. And said Sonia is awesome about finding the right classes. She's plugged in with all these 4-year coaches, and the she knows what's going to work, and she doesn't just do a research like call this one school and see how this class is going to work. She sends it out to 15 different compliance officers at all these different schools and say, would you take this class? And she kind of gets an idea from all of them, and that's that's a big part to it. It's just trying to keep them on track. It's not the easiest thing. It's probably I work 15-hour days. I love my job, but that's probably the least favorite part. And she makes it so much easier to where I'm not stressing about it, and we have things in place to where I can get on. We class check our kids. our school is so small that we literally send a coach every hour because there's only one big building where most of the classes are. And so we send two coaches every hour, and they go check, the 15 classes there, and we literally check off every kid there, and make sure they're at class, because we know that's an important part to it. Our kids have to play the game a little bit. We tell them sit in the first 3 rows, show up to class, take your hats, hoods off, take your headphones out, have a notebook out, and take notes. I mean, for our kids, that goes a long way. They've never been taught some of that stuff, and we're kind of playing that game with them. With the teachers at times.
Well, it's huge. I try to talk the same thing about my guys in high school, and I think that it's easy for kids to not realize that teachers are human beings, and when you go in there and I tell you just act like you're paying attention. Just even if you're not, act like you're paying attention. Like you said, have a notebook and a pen out, and you smile at them when you leave. They're way more apt to help you if you need the help, or to work with you, where if you're not, just because they're people, they're not going to work with you as well. And it's say what you want about it, but that's kind of what life is. If you can learn that about life, that'll help you a bunch too.
Well, and I also think you were talking about the 4-year guys, with that APR now, especially the Division I kids. I always feel like if I can get them an AA and get them Division I eligible, because of the APR and them trying to keep their scholarships and everything, it may not be in what they necessarily wanted, but they're going to end up with a 4-year college degree, most of them. And for a lot of the kids that we have, they wouldn't go to college if it wasn't for, one, us at junior college, and 2, football. And you can say that, well, they should be more motivated. They're not motivated. It's different. It's a different era that we're living in. They're not motivated. We have to do the motivation. And the fact, I think, that we're changing a lot of kids' lives and families' lives, especially because we get a lot of first-generation college students. We have a program called Trio. I'd say we probably have 70% of our kids in that. And one of the first criteria to see if you qualify for it is, are you a first-time college student, in your family? And that, to me, I think we're really changing a lot of kids' lives, and their families, by getting this done. We deal with some families that they don't know what a FAFSA is, and we have to help them through that with our financial aid people and how to do that. And a lot of high school counselors help, obviously. But it takes a village to get them there. But honestly, if we get them there, the end result's pretty amazing. We want them all to make the NFL, obviously, and they all want to make it. They all think they're going
right.
to. But at the end of the day, obviously life expectancy of that is 3 years. If you do get there, and even if you made some money, you still need a job at some point. And the fact that we can get them a 4-year degree and at least a 2-year degree, that's going to go a long way for a lot of the kids that we have. They had no chance if they didn't have football and obviously community college to do that.
Well, you're exactly right. And I was just looking at the percentages the other day and I don't know what college necessarily taught me or it didn't, but it got me a piece of paper and let me coach, high school football and be an educator because I had that piece of paper. And so my wife is finishing up her college degree. And so I was just looking at percentages and the kids on your at your place, they are also probably hopefully meeting girls that are also going to universities. And so the percentages that a kid grows up in a successful household is, I forget what it was, like 80% higher if both mom and dad had a college degree. And so, like you said, yeah, it sounds great to say, hey, just be more motivated, but they're not, or maybe they don't know, or maybe they just never would have ever had the money to do it. And now they've got it, and you've changed, a whole, whoever their kid is or their kids are, you've changed that kid's life because hopefully they've also met a young lady that has graduated as well. And now it's a completely different ball game for their kid.
You're going to change a whole generation in their family, their family history, just by doing that. We had a kid at Dodge, wide receiver. He plays with he played with the Rams for 5 years, and I think he's with someone now. But his parents didn't go to college. He was a kid from the south side of Chicago. He wasn't going to go to college, but he has a college degree from Dodge City Community College, and he has one from Southern Miss. And yeah, he's making more money than most, but at some point he's been making the league minimum. He hadn't had a big time contract. At some point he's going to need a job, but he's altered his family's path for a lot of years, and in the next probably generation and probably the generation after that, at least. It kind of opens that thing up a little bit, and that's to me, that I think that's the most rewarding thing. That's why I love the junior college level. I'm a product of it, and I love this level because one, we get to coach some really talented kids, obviously, but two, like we get to help some kids that, man, I got a kid coming from Georgia that mom's literally on life support, isn't going to make it, and all he can think about is coming out because he knows that football and going to school is going to be the best thing for him. And we deal with that on a regular basis, and I know a lot of people do that too at the high school level. But we get some of these kids that they're ready to, they want to get out, they want to go explore, they want to go, they really want to be good at school, and they want to be good at football, and they just want to make a life for themselves. And I think we help some of them get that opportunity that they don't always get.
Well, Coach, coming up now on an hour, and it's, we've taken a lot of your time, but before we cut you loose and let you go, kind of the question I always ask everybody is, when you're watching another team's offensive line, what's some things they'd be doing that would make you think highly of their offensive line coach?
I think the first thing, if you're looking at a wide copy, I look at kind of continuity, that balance of, everyone looks like they're going in one direction, and everyone has a purpose. Everyone knows where they're going, and they're going there fast. When they're climbing the backers, they're getting there fast because they just have a command of what they do. Obviously we can talk schemes all you want, and then, I did things differently at Dodge than I do now, and I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way to run inside zone or outside zone. It's kind of what works for you. But, within your, how you teach things is, we call it the scholarship line. Like I said, if you're on the wide copy, and I tell my kids all the time, you want your kids to get recruited, we call it the scholarship line. There's the line of scrimmage. If you're on the back end, you're not getting a scholarship. If you're pushing forward, you got a good chance to be a scholarship player. And then I think in the pass protection stuff, it's kind of command of, building a pocket. I always teach our kids, we're protecting the depth, or the depth of the pocket at guard and center, and at tackle we're protecting the width. And if you can build that pocket around a quarterback, and staying square, and those types of little coaching points, to me, I think to me that looks really awesome. I call it poetry in motion. When you see a good offensive line, and everyone's moving together, and they're just, even if they're climbing up, and it may be differently than how I do it, or they took a different step, but when that stuff's kind of happening, and not even the end zone view, just the side view, you see those guys all going and rolling downfield, or all setting and making that pocket. You see that quarterback step up and throw that football. Man, it's a beautiful thing. Because I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way. I mean, you could sit here and debate offenses all day long, but the veer, the wing feed, they're still viable offenses today. It's all about how you teach it and what you get your kids to do.
Coach, man, it's been an awesome hour. I love, like I said, Coach Harper said it a bunch of times, but love talking to you guys at the 2-year schools and the junior colleges, because I just feel like it's football in its most pure form. I mean, I think your guys' hearts are in the right place.
Yeah.
You're helping families, you're helping kids, and you're creating opportunities for people. And one, it's you're not making the most money, but it's probably one of the most rewarding professions it is,
Yeah.
man. And I take my hat off to you guys and tip my cap, man. You guys do a hell of a job, and we really appreciate you guys, man.
And the high school guys are doing a heck of a job too. I love going when I do go out on the road. I don't go out on the road as much because I do a lot of the 4-year stuff now, so I'm home. When our guys are out recruiting, I'm there meeting with the 4-year guys. But I always like going out and talking with coaches and just said I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to any of this. That's the beauty of football. It's all about how you do things. But we're always open. You guys can come up anytime you want. We've always been an open book at Independence. You guys can come anytime, come to practice, come watch us. When you get some free time. I know we usually butt up with you guys are in camp, we're in camp, but you guys can come anytime. We're an open book. We're not doing anything life altering. I guarantee you on offense and defense, we'll open the film room up.